please join me in giving a warm Prince George's Community College recognition to Mr. Willard Wigan.
I'd just like to thank everybody for that reception. It's amazing. I've come a long way for this. I've travelled all the way from England, and this is quite a huge reception to me. You know, the way I look at it, less can be more. You know, I've been in front of big crowds, but you know, you have a lot of energy and tenacity, and I feel very, very honoured, and I have to express that in the smallest, biggest way I can. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself anyway. I'm the creator of the smallest artwork in history. I'm creating works of art that can be measured in microns. I have sculptures 8 microns, small as a human blood cell or perhaps smaller. I never realized that my artwork would create such a huge impact. Something that you can't see. And there's a saying, just because you cannot see something doesn't mean it's not there, you know. And we all came from nothing. That's how we all came. Everybody in this room was once microscopic. I knew that I had to express myself somewhere along the line. I had to bring something out, because my history wasn't that good because of the problems I had academically. It affected me through school. My mother encouraged me by telling me the smaller my work, the bigger my name will become. So I didn't understand what she said. She said, I will get bigger by getting smaller. So I said, how can I get big when I'm small? She says, your name. Because she said to me, my work is going to open the door. So I took it on board, and I understood that I had to do something about it. My career goes back a long way. I'm going back 47 years ago. When I started school, 1962, it was a bit of a traumatic experience for me, because I realized I had learning difficulties, and I knew that I was going to encounter something that I didn't want to encounter, because the school teachers used to have a habit of making me feel as small as the work that I was creating, because it was a way of them telling the kids that I am illiterate, because I couldn't express myself when I started school. So I didn't get on. I just decided I wanted to abscond, because the experience was too much. Because the one teacher in particular used to have a habit of embarrassing me, so she decided she wanted to let all the kids know about me. So she dragged me up in front of the school and told the kids that I am the example of failure, because she decided to see whether I could do any sums, and found that I couldn't add up. And that's when it all started, and that's when I knew that I had to escape from school. So I absconded from school a lot. My journey was so painful, because I had to dig deep and find what I could really do. Because my mother used to tell me that that education will be the key to success, but I knew I didn't have it. So I used to keep telling her all the time, what do I do? And how my skills really came out, one day I was hiding in the shed, because I was supposed to be in at school. I was supposed to turn up, but I didn't turn up. I decided that I wanted to just abscond, hide in the shed. So as I was in the shed hiding, my mother caught me, and then she dragged me out and said to me, why aren't you at school? I told her that I couldn't take it anymore, because I was being, I suppose, there's a word for it, that they were suppressing me. They were finding every single way that they possibly could to embarrass me. So she said what I should do is just continue to try and fit in. And I was supposed to go back to school that day. I didn't go back, so she just told me to stay there. and my skills, uh, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with everything, so I'm going to have to try and explain it a little bit more. What actually happened, my mother caught me, and then she said to me, I need to go back to school. I told her I didn't want to go back. She said, you're going to have to go back. So I sat down on the ground. I didn't cry, I just sat down feeling sorry for myself. And then she said to me that if you don't go back to school, I'm going to drag you back to school. And I started to, make up an excuse that I got a headache, I wasn't feeling well. You know how kids do. So then she looked at me and said, you're going to go back tomorrow. Then she just left me there. And I remember looking on the ground, and then I saw some ants moving around on the ground. And as a kid, sometimes we'd drift off into a little fantasy world. And I was looking at these ants, and I started to think that these ants needed somewhere to live. So I started making furniture for ants. I know it sounds strange, but this is what I did. I decided that I needed to make some furniture for these ants. And not only did I make furniture, I made houses for ants as well. So what I did, I picked up little splinters of glass, which I found, and I picked up little splinters of wood, and I started slicing these splinters. And I built up like a little house for an ant. So what I did, I decided to construct these little splinters together, and then I just created a little house. I used friction. I'd make a little groove, and then I started just constructing, and then I'd realize I was becoming good with my hands, And what actually happened, I was almost believing that these ants were like humans and they could speak, so I found myself talking to the ants, And I used to tell them, I used to say to the ants, when I make these houses for you, you must look after the houses and don't eat them. And, I didn't ask the ants for any rent because I never had any money. So from there, I got really obsessed in creating these little houses. But then I didn't see it as being special. I just seen it as something that I was just doing because it was just something I wanted to do. I thought the ants would have been homeless otherwise. Then my mother came down the garden and said to me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm making some houses for ants. And then she looked at these little houses and she said, wow, she said, that is absolutely amazing. And I looked at my mother and I said, what do you mean? She says, that's what you should do. She says, you can't read, you can't write very well, so you better concentrate on making small things. So when she said that to me, then it went into my head, because I was never really encouraged, because that was the first time, because when I went to school I didn't get any encouragement. And then she said to me, take it smaller. Make it so small that nobody can see it. So what I decided to do was to just lock myself away in the bedroom. I used to do that every night. And I started carving sculptures that were so small that they could fit on the end of my finger or on the end of my nail. And I used to show my mother and say, look at that. She'd say, I can see it. And then she'd just kind of walk off and look at me. And so I used to say, well, why? She'd say, because my mother was from Jamaica, she'd say, when we look upon it, we can't see it. I don't want to see anything. So when she said that to me, I just thought, well, if I make it smaller, she'll never be able to see anything. And I said, what happens if you can't see nothing? She said, that's exactly what I want. So what I did, I stole my dad's razor blade and I broke the corner of the razor blade off, and I found a little piece of wood, and I shoved the corner of the razor blade into the piece of wood, and I used my mother's cotton and started wrapping it around so it would bite it and hold it there. It was quite crude looking, and I picked up a little splinter and I started carving this little lady on the end of it. And then I showed my mother again, and she looked at it and she said, I can still see her.